What's up, Captains? Don't mind me just catching some Pokemans on the Switch. But that's not why you're here, is it? You want to learn a little bit about exposing your videos. Today we're going to talk about the exposure triangle, which is made up of shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. But we're going to explain it in a way that's super simple. And at the end of the day, we just want an image that looks good. And at the end of the video, I'm going to show you a little tip in the editing process that's going to make your image look even better. And to clarify, we're not talking about the type of exposure that people say they'll give you instead of money for your services. We're talking about exposure, which is the amount of light that reaches your camera's sensor. And in simple terms, it's just the amount of brightness your image has. The first thing that contributes to exposure, and my personal favorite, is aperture. So you'll see on your camera, there's a little F. All you need to know is that the lower that number, the more light that your camera gets and the brighter the image. So I'm shooting at f2.8 right now, which means that it is getting the most amount of light and it's gonna be a brighter image. If I change it, you can see it gets darker. So this is f10. One thing to know about aperture and why it makes it my personal favorite is that cool blurry background effect called bokeh that you get. So if I hold up this camera, you'll see that I go out of focus and the camera's in focus. That's because I'm shooting at f2.8, so I'm shooting really low, and that's gonna give you that cool effect. So you can do this for product videos, portraits, things like that. If you're gonna do more landscapes and wide shots, you're gonna wanna put it to f10, f12, something along those lines. But remember, the higher you go, the darker the image. So keep that in mind for your next shoot. One thing I like to do is set my exposure first because it gives you the most creative control out of the 3 settings. The second setting I change is my shutter speed. This might get a little bit confusing, so stick with me. You'll see on your camera you have a 1 over and then another number. The lower that bottom number is, the brighter your image. The last setting I change is ISO. Think of ISO as artificial light for your camera. The higher your ISO, the lower image quality that you'll have. Here's a little bonus tip. There's something called native ISO, and a lot of cameras have it. So if you go to Google, look up your camera, type in native ISO, you'll find the best ISO settings for your specific camera to get the highest quality image. You might be wondering, how do I know if I'm exposed correctly while I'm shooting? Well, I'll show you. All right, so here's a quick example. You can see I'm shooting at a shutter of 1/60, aperture's at f2.8, and my ISO is at 640. This other setting here says I'm at -0.7. So this is what you can use to see if you're exposed correctly or not. You want this to be as close to 0 as possible. I don't necessarily want to change my shutter or my aperture, so I'm gonna go in, change my ISO, bump it up a little bit more. After changing that, it says ±0, so we're at a pretty good spot for exposure. I'd be pretty happy with this image. All right, so as promised, I'm gonna give you a little bonus tip. We're gonna hop into Final Cut Pro, and I'm gonna show you how to make sure you're getting the best image with color correction. So we're here in Final Cut Pro. You're gonna wanna hit Command 7. It's gonna pull up this cool little window that's gonna show you your exposure level from 0 to 100. The bottom being your shadows, the top being your highlights, the middle being your midtones. So you're gonna wanna adjust these to make sure that your shadows are as close to 0 as possible without going under, so you're not crushing your shadows. And then you're gonna want your highlights to be close to 100 but not go over. Otherwise, you're gonna be destroying your highlights. One of these days, if you want to learn a little bit more about color correcting, let me know and I'll do it. I just want to give you enough right now just to be dangerous, you know what I'm saying? Yo, thanks for coming by, Captains. Hope you learned a thing or two about exposing your videos. Your boy's got to get back to his Pokemans, because it's pretty embarrassing. I only got a War Turtle. I'm trying to get the Blastoise. But yeah, let me know if there's any other video topics you want me to talk about. Would love to help out in any way I can. Till next time, seize the Kraken. Peace.